Hello, I'm Selena, and I am back representing Pisces Ministry and talking a little bit about divination. So, for this video, I want to talk a little bit about ethics of divination. And I don't know if this is talked about enough. I don't know if you can talk about it enough. So, here we go. Before we start talking about different ways of using divination, I'm going to talk about whether or not you should. Some things that are very important if you're doing readings for other people, and if you're receiving readings as well. If you see these things happening, you may really think about, is this a red flag? Is this an unethical reader? They're out there, they're all over the place. So one thing that is unethical as a diviner is giving advice that's not asked for. This happens a lot, and it's often people that want to show how powerful and in tune with the spirits they are. And they will come up to you and say, your dead grandmother just gave me this message for you. And my experience is that if my dead grandmother has a message for me, she's going to communicate with me or guide me to go seek out a divination. She's not just going to tell a random stranger on the street for them to come and tell me, you know. So that's not okay. And sometimes you do get messages or insights about other people if you are open, and if you're a medium in particular. That doesn't mean you have to tell them. Just because you know something doesn't mean you have to open your mouth and tell them. Part of receiving, part of being open to receive and developing your psychic senses, you're going to just get information. That doesn't mean you have to go tell everyone. If you feel strongly that you've received a warning for someone else, that they need to hear it, you just ask them. You can say, hello, I'm a psychic or whatever, and I've received some information. Would you be open to hearing it? But you have to understand that, particularly if it's not a practitioner, you have a lot of sway with your words when you introduce yourself as a medium or as a psychic. And it can have a lot of profound impact on the other person, and they may not necessarily interpret it the way that you mean it. So you can really do some damage to people if they're not understanding what you're saying. And they may say that they do, and they may repeat it back to you in such a way that you feel that they've understood it. But if they're not seeking out those messages, they may not be ready for them. So part of their journey is also in getting to the point where they're ready to ask the question. And you could be interrupting their journey by jumping in with information that they didn't ask for. So if somebody is not asking for your psychic advice or opinion, keep it to yourself, basically, is what I'm saying. Another big issue, and it kind of is along the same lines, except usually these are scam artists, is psychic internet trolls that will jump into your inbox and say, oh, Grand Rising, I have had a vision about you, and I see that you need this reading. And they'll, for $50, they will give you a tarot reading. And in that reading, they will determine that you need this spell work done. And for $300, they will do this spell work for you to get rid of the evil demonic presence that is following you, or whatever. These are all scams. Every single one of them is a scam. Actual readers do not private message randos on the internet. Doesn't happen. They don't have time for it. It doesn't happen. So if you get a message in your inbox, especially on social media, that someone they sense with their psychic powers that you needed a reading, it's a scam. It's just a scam. Report them. And they will often dupe the account of an actual reader, and it's terrible. It's awful. Actual readers will never, ever, ever private message you to initiate it. They have a website. Usually their website details how to book a reading and their prices. And you will have to go to them. If they're coming to you, it's not legitimate at all, period. So that's you'll see that a lot. It is also unethical in a reading to tell someone that they are going to die or get divorced or lose a job. You may perceive that, you may understand that from the reading, but the reading hasn't happened yet. You're looking into the future. You're looking at potential outcomes, you know. But if you tell someone, well, this reading says you're going to die next week, they're going to take that in a different way. And when you're doing divination work, a death could mean a transformation. It could mean a change. It doesn't necessarily mean a physical death. And you don't necessarily know that. And you don't necessarily know what changes that person is going to make based on the reading to have a different outcome. So it can be really damaging to people if you tell them, you're going to die at this particular age, or you're going to die. They'll set their whole lives at, oh, this is when I'm going to die, and they can sort of manifest those things as well. But that's an unethical practitioner. If they're telling you straight out, you're going to die, or you're going to get divorced, or whatever, that's a certainty like that, they're probably not an ethical reader. So be careful. Yeah, especially about predicting people's lifespans, because that can get into their minds, especially if they're not a practitioner and they don't necessarily understand that what you're seeing is coming through in symbolism, and it's going through your own filters as an interpreter, So please be careful when you're doing readings for others. Make sure how you're saying things, and that you've got a lot of practice before you open up to take clients. Do a lot of work for yourself. Do a lot of readings for friends and family. Journal about it. See how it evolves. Did it actually come out the way you thought? Maybe you interpreted it one way, but when the thing actually comes to be, you say, oh, no, the cards were right. I just interpreted it wrong. So that happens a lot, especially when you're learning. So to be an ethical reader, learn your system, learn it well, practice it again, practice it some more for years before you start taking clients that are paying you, and see how your predictions actually pan out. Yeah, that's the advice I have. And if you're going to a reader who is doing some of these unethical things, I encourage you to get up and leave, and find someone else. Yeah, the end. That's all I have to say about the ethics of divination for today. So please join us again. There will be more videos coming out, and we're going to talk about some different ways of using divination and some different systems you can work with. And yeah, that's all I've got. See you later.